welcome on in, everybody. It is the Mo Vaughn Podcast MVP. Brendan Tobin here alongside the man himself, Mo Vaughn. And Mo, we got a very, very exciting guest today, man. This is an absolute thrill. You've been talking about this. You got to bring the fraternity together, the first baseman, the lefties, all in the same place. This is really, really cool. Rafael Palmeiro joining us here on the program. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
Man, thank you guys for having me on. It's been a while, Mo. It's been a while since I've seen you.
This is one of my best guys in the game. Always supported me when I was young. Was always very positive. I think I played one of my first games ever was at the old Texas Stadium. They had that great team. It was like Rafi with Julio Franco, and I think Nolan Ryan was on the team. They had Dean Palmer, Juan Gonzalez, and I was like in awe. And he always took me under his wing at the time. And then luckily, coming from Texas, he got into, Baltimore. So I got to see him in intense environments all the time. But what a great man and a great player. I got to know how are your sons doing, bro?
They're both good. They both play ball in the minor leagues. My oldest son, he works with Scott Boras.
Nice.
The Boras agency. He's an agent. He actually represents Jackson Holiday, and which is Matt Holiday's son. And his little brother just got drafted by the Rockies in the first round.
Right.
He's got those two guys. So he's new at it. He's been in the business for a couple of years. My youngest played up to AAA with the Angels. And didn't quite make it. Came up a little bit short, but he's doing well. They're both in the area. They're both here in the. In fact, they're both 5 minutes from my house. So
nice.
I got
That's
lucky.
Beautiful.
They're both married. One, my oldest, is married to a girl from Connecticut.
They're from my town.
Yeah, they met up there while he was playing ball, and then my youngest met his wife at North Carolina State. So. They're both married. I'm a grandfather now. I've got a grandson that's 2.5. Got another one coming in October, a little girl. So I don't know how to deal with little girls. So I'm gonna have to watch. I mean, I've always been around boys. So
yeah.
But anyway, I'm lucky that they're both here. They're both doing well. And thanks.
I remember though, like when I used to come in, I loved to go into Texas. Texas was a great visitors clubhouse. They had all the movies. They had the great food. They had, the guys in Texas really did it well. So I used to always love going to the Texas Rangers. And then Rafi's boys, they were young at that time. And they were just like, not toddlers, but they were in grade school. And then I saw a picture of one of them with you at NC State. I was like, man, maybe I could catch them on the East Coast. I never caught up. But I always, I'm glad. They were good young boys at the time, and I'm glad they're having a tremendous amount of success and having families. And you're a grandfather. Great, man. Great stuff.
Man, it's the best. He's not mine, but when I have him, he's mine, and then I can give him back. So, but it's great. Everyone told me that it was going to be great being a grandfather, and I was like, how good could it be? But they're right. It's the best. In fact, I'm gonna watch my grandson tomorrow. My son's out in somewhere in California watching high school ball, and his mom's going to be busy, so I'm going to get the chance to be with him, take him out to eat some breakfast or something. So it's great.
And at what age do you start putting the bat in the hand? Like, when do you start getting the lefty stance going for him?
He's already got a bat in his hand, a little plastic bat, but I'm trying to get him to go both ways because he's swinging a little bit right-handed right now. My son's right-handed.
Right.
So, but he'll swing lefty. He's going to swing left-handed. He's got no choice because I'm going to work with him, and he's going to have to swing the bat left-handed. Maybe I'll teach him the Mo Vaughn.
Exactly.
That kind of
stuff. I'll be there to help you if you need me.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
So here's a guy has 20 MLB seasons. Okay. And in that time, a career 288 average. 3,020 hits, 569 home runs, and 1,835 RBIs. I mean, this guy is a Hall of Famer. This guy's got the numbers to back up everything and anything. There wasn't a better guy that could hit in the middle of the order than a guy like this. He was a 4-time All-Star, a 3-time Golden Glove, a 2-time Silver Slugger. Just unbelievable stats. Along with that, he's one of 6 players in the history of the game with 500 home runs and 3,000 plus hits.
Monsters. It's great.
I mean, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say to a guy like that? He came to work, and I tell you, people don't realize is the greatest stat of all. We always talked about as players. I always knew that I had to walk the home plate 600 times. He talked to me about that. You got to get the home plate. I don't care if you're on crutches. You get the home plate 600 times. You're gonna hit 30 home runs. You're gonna hit 300, and you're gonna drive in 100 runs. But this guy was just special. Rafi, what was your mindset, man? Like year after year after year to go out and be successful. I think I want you to talk about one more thing: the amount of talent at first base that we had in the 90s and 2000s. Like, how great was the talent?
It was tough, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of kept me going. Is the players that I was competing against in the American League. It was tough because, we had Frank Thomas, Jim Thome, Tino Martinez, John Olerud. We had Mark McGuire, Fred McGriff. I mean, come on, man. I mean, everybody there is a Hall of Fame guy. And so it was tough, but I knew going in that if I was going to be able to compete and even have a shot at maybe making the All-Star game, I was going to have to put up some numbers. And if I put up some numbers, my team was going to be in the mix. But the name of the game for me was consistency, man. I wanted to be consistent every year. I set my numbers before the season started. I would put some numbers down as my goal. I always put those numbers way, way out there. In fact, my wife used to tell me, "You're crazy. You're not going to get to those numbers," which was good because that kind of fueled me, a little bit. And there were times where I got to those numbers. There were times that the years that I hit over 40 home runs, those were the years that I got to those numbers because I always felt like I could get to 40 home runs. But the thing that drove me was I just wanted to be good every day, and I wanted to be able to help my team win every day, whether it was with the bat or at first base with my glove. I wanted to show up every day and be productive for my team. And with that mindset, it just kept me going. I stayed in the lineup. The same thing you talked earlier about being in the lineup, getting you 600 at bats. If you can get to the plate 600 times and you can stay consistent, you're going to put up numbers. You're going to help your team win, and that was my goal.
Probably. You were part of like so many great lineups, like those 80s Cubs with Hawk Dawson and Ryan Sandberg, and then you go to Texas with Pudge and Wangan, and you get time with Ripken. I mean, like you obviously were like such more than even the glue that it was, but like, was there something that like you found similarities in like an elite lineup that you guys brought together? Because I was like looking back at some of the things you were part of, and it's just like, man, the talent that was there from each stop was incredible.
Yeah, I was lucky. I actually was a lucky player because I came up in Chicago with the names that you just brought up, and some other guys like Rick Sutcliffe, who was a pitcher, but I learned a lot from him. Obviously Ryan Sandberg, Manny Trillo, this era of, this generation of fans probably don't remember him.
Right.
But that dude had a big influence in my career. But Rick Sutcliffe, Leon Durham, Andre Dawson, who, I watched and I actually got a chance to hit behind him in the lineup the year he won the MVP. Learned a lot from him. Ryan Sandberg, I named my son, my oldest son, Patrick. His middle name is Ryan. That's how much he meant to me. So, but I had a chance to play with a lot of great players, a lot of Hall of Fame, a lot of famers. Pudge Rodriguez, like you said, Nolan Ryan. Early on when I came over to Texas, then I got to Baltimore and played with Cal Ripken, Robbie Alomar. I mean, it's Eddie Murray. Come on, man, that's an all-star team of Hall of Fame guys. So I was lucky to play along with all those great players and just picked at them a little bit and try to learn from all of them.
We, do you have any memories? We recently, unfortunately, lost Ryan. Is there something that just comes to mind as like, the first thing when you think about him and his life and your interactions with him that just meant the most to you?
Yeah, he came over from Philadelphia a few years before I got to the big leagues. I guess there was a huge trade that happened between them and the Cubs. And just watching him as a young player, I mean, he was already a superstar. I think he had won an MVP before he got there, before I got there. And just watching how he worked, how he prepared every day, and how he played the game. But the one thing that people don't realize about Rhino, at least all of us are the guys that played with him knew, is when he was a prankster. He liked to prank guys.
I heard that.
During the games, not
that
before the game, not after the game. He liked to prank guys. He would put people on fire, guys on fire during the game.
The hot foot.
And the hot foot. And it was funny as hell until they did it to you. In fact,
right.
Bukovic, who ended up managing the Philly. Yeah. He was our third base coach. And they put him on fire during the game. Like he was out there and his thing started burning up during the inning. So, but Rhino, I mean, he was the best, man. He was a great dude. I love being teammates with him. Obviously I got traded early on and I didn't really get a chance to play with these guys a lot, but he meant a lot to me. And I love watching him play and just being a teammate of him.
Yeah, that's an incredible thing. I'm curious about this because you guys both raised, kids in the sport, and it's interesting because you hear about how the game is changing, but that mix of power and consistency with 3,000 hits that we talked about. I was listening to a broadcast the other day. They said maybe Altuve may be the last guy who gets 3,000 hits just because of how guys are going about it. Is there anything that you see in the way that today's player or the way they're teaching them that you would like changed or that you think is misguided because of what the expectations are? You talked about the responsibilities and the numbers you had to put up, and it feels like it's a lot different these days.
Yeah, well, I think Machado has a chance too. I think he's young enough and he's on a good pace. But I don't really watch the game that much anymore. I mean, I watch the Rangers every now and then. I'll go to a game over there, but the approach is different. Their expectation, what they're asking these guys to do these days, this during the this era is different than what we were expected to do. I mean, I had to get the runner in from third base somehow. I had to get that runner from second base to third base. You had to give up your at bat. It didn't matter what you hit in the lineup. If that at bat called for you to move the guy over and give yourself up, we had to do it. I mean, Rick Sutcliffe, he chewed me out one day early on in my career. We had a game in Chicago. He was pitching. We were down 2-1, and I left that guy on third base, and I struck out with less than 2 outs. And he was the guy that chewed me out in the dugout. And I never forgot because it was the most embarrassing thing to me. But he basically said, hey, I'm busting my ass. I'm trying to pitch this. I'm trying to win us this game. That's your job. You got to get that guy in from third base. And if you're not going to do that, we're going to send your ass back down to AAA. And those were his words. And he was our ace. And so
that's exactly how it was.
I never forgot that. But see, today, they would rather you try to hit a home run and get a 2-run homer and not put the ball in play. You strike out with runner on third, less than 2 out, which happens more often now than it did when we played. And they just pat you on the butt and say, hey, maybe next time. There is no next time. We had no next time.
Exactly.
We had guys pushing us up from AAA. When I got to the big leagues, I said, I said, yeah, it's fine. I made it. I got here. This was my goal, but it was actually harder to stay there because there was always guys coming up behind you. I always heard every year going to spring training, oh, so-and-so, is the next first baseman that's going to take over. And I'm like, yeah, over my dead body. Yeah. It took me a lifetime to get here. I'm going to do everything that I can now to stay here and establish myself and play a long career. But, the way that the game is played today, it's not really just the players. They've changed the approach to hitting and the approach to pitching. But I think it's because that's what they're asked to do. So when you see guys hitting 220 or, there's so many guys in the big leagues today hitting 220 or less, but we couldn't hit 220 when we played.
You'd be in Double-A.
Maybe you'd be in Double-A if you're lucky. You get the leagues. But now it's acceptable because if you can hit 20 home runs or 25 home runs and drive in 60 or 70 runs, that's enough. But for us, that's not enough. I mean, we came to play every day. We came to drive in 100, 120 runs and hit 40 home runs and move guys over. There were so many easy RBIs, and I know Mo can talk to this as well. That runner on third base in less than 2 outs, especially when the infield's in, that's like that's like walking the dog in the park, man.
Right. There was just certain things that we had to do hitting in the 3, 4, 5 slot. They're just, I hear that they don't emphasize RBIs like they're not important. I'm hearing that they don't emphasize batting average like it's not important. You know, and Rafi, I want you to answer this when I'm done. I think the game's going to go back. You look at the payroll of the Yankees, and you look at the payroll of some of these other teams, and the fact that they don't know how to get guys over, they're spending all this money. They're not really focusing on the things they do to win.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that all of that works when only in the regular season.
Right.
And then when the playoffs comes, that's when everything tightens up. And you have to learn how to situational hit. You got to learn to get the guy over. You got to learn to get the bunt down. And also defensively, you know, I wasn't a great defensive player. You were. You like hitting. Like I used to have to, you know, I loved him, but I used to friggin' hate, you know, when there was nobody on. He's playing back. I'm rifling one through the hole, and he's stretched out with his lefty glove, just scooping my stuff up and throwing it. But defense and good pitching, throwing strikes, timely hitting is what wins championships. All this other stuff doesn't matter when it comes to trying to win a World Series. And I think now, you know, I think the game may change back. What do you think?
It'll change back eventually, but there has to be a team or two that will revert back to those days, okay? The days of, you know, when I was in Baltimore and we ended up, we ran into the Yankees. This is like the mid to late, 90s when they started going on their roll. The Red Sox teams that won some championships. If you go back and you look at those teams, even my Oriole teams from 96 and 97, you know, we played defense. We had some speed. We pitched. You know, we had guys. I don't think none of us struck out 100 times. Like our lineup, there was not one guy up and down our lineup in 96 or 97 when we won 97 games. Guys were putting the ball in play, man. And so when you look at the teams, the Red Sox team that won those championships and the Yankee teams that went on that roll, look at how they put their team together. They had some superstars, but the games against the Yankees were so tough, just like against the Red Sox, because they grinded out at bats. You know, you thought you had them, but in the sixth inning, if the game was tied or you're up by one or down by one, it was pretty much over, because the way they played the game, you know, after the sixth inning, if you didn't have them, they were going to get you, because they were going to get the hit. They were going to get that runner over. They were going to get the lead, and then Mariano comes in and shuts the door. And so those teams back then, you can bring them back to this era, and they would wipe the league.
Yeah.
Both those teams, even our teams back in when I played with the Orioles. But somebody's going to have to change the approach.
Right.
You know, maybe the Astros kind of have it a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch them very well, but somebody's going to have to get back to the fundamentals, you know, defense up the middle, a great catcher that can throw people out.
Exactly.
Big boppers at first and third, right and left. You know, a center fielder that, you know, Kenny Lofton type. Remember Kenny Lofton?
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
Is there a guy in baseball today like Kenny?
Right.
That can get on base, that could, you know,
still
wreak havoc on the bases, catch every ball in center field. The guy could steal 50, 60 bases.
Yep.
You know, hit 300, 400 on base percentage, score 120 runs. And so that's what the leadoff guy is supposed to be. The second guy in the lineup, similar to this situation, but a guy can put the ball in play, move runners over, steal. But, you know, now you got the best hitter in the lineup hitting second and sometimes hitting first. And I'm thinking,
which I don't agree with at all.
But they want that because they want the extra at bat.
But there's nobody on base.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, give me my 4 at bats. I want my 4 at bats, or maybe 5, and give me 2 guys in front of me that are constantly on base, and I'll do the damage. I'll drive them in.
Because the men on base and the outs dictate how you're going to get pitched.
Yeah.
Who's around you. All right, so listen, these are. I'm gonna jog your memory a little bit. When you're a lefty and you are Rafael Palmeiro, Mo Vaughn, let's think about John Olerud, Jim Thome. Who back in the day was your toughest lefty to face in the 7th, 8th inning?
You?
No, I'm talking about pitching wise.
Oh, pitching wise?
Sorry.
Well, you know the answer to that. I mean, Mariano was the toughest. I mean, he was the 9th inning guy.
Right. Who was the guy the lefty that coming out of the bullpen that you had to face that was tough?
You know, None of them really, because back then, and you'll know this, these guys were specialty guys coming in to get you out in the seventh inning,
Right.
with time run on second base or go ahead run or whatever. They're trying to keep the lead. Well, the guy that the Yankees would roll out there, I mean, he was going to try to get me out with his slider.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat on his slider.
Right.
I took that away from him. It could be a nasty slider done in a way, but I'm looking for it. So I don't really remember anyone really
What about
giving
Tony
me.
Fossis?
Same thing. I just sat on his stuff, man. He couldn't throw a fastball by me.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, in those situations, they were going to come in and they were going to try to get you out with their best pitch. I mean, Tony Fossis throws 85 miles an hour.
Well,
Is he going to try to beat me with a fastball? He can't. He's got to throw me that nasty slider. He has to pin on the outside black, and he's got to throw it there 3 times, and I'm looking for it. So if he misses by a couple inches,
you got him.
I might get him. You know what? But as far as
You see how he's talking?
Mm-hmm.
This is what we don't hear now. Like the plan. What do I got to do to execute the plan against the lefty in a key situation to win the game? That's where the game is played. Is in the batter's box, in your mind. You're coming in the game. He's coming in the game. You're looking at the outs, how hard he throws, who's on base, how you're hitting. It's all like a computer that you have to calculate all this stuff and get in the box and ready to do damage. And he was one of the best at it.
Darren Oliver was pretty good too. He had a really nasty slider, but
here he goes. He's starting to remember now.
Yeah, Darren Oliver, because I played with Darren here in Texas, but I got a chance to play against him too. But here's the thing: is that a lot of those guys, when the game was on the line, they knew how they were going to try to get you out. But there were other situations where the game was not on the line. Maybe they had a 2 or 3 run lead, or maybe they were down and they were just trying to get through the inning because they got brought in earlier in the inning, and then you end up facing them. Well, guess what? They're not gonna pitch you the same way. You might see some fastballs in, you might see some fastballs away, but they're not gonna give you their best slider to try to get you out unless they get you to 2 strikes and then they go after you. But I knew that, so I didn't have to sit on the slider the whole at bat. So
exactly,
I had it both ways. I mean, I was thinking with them as well, and you have to. You gotta understand what the pitcher is trying to do. And they have all these stats and all this information now. It's just overkill, because when you face Pedro and you face Roger, you're going to face.
Who was that starter you didn't like to face? Who was that tough?
Well, obviously Randy Johnson.
Did you play against him?
Yes, I played against
him too. Like someone like those guys that all of a sudden they come up with an injury, like and
no.
Arm's hurting and I can't play tomorrow. Knowing you got to face him. I always thought it was necessary to face Randy Johnson.
Oh, yeah, I faced Randy. Now, I didn't play against him all the time because, I only got 1 hit off of him in 25 at-bats. But I promise you, every time I got into the batter's box, in my mind, I was going to beat him.
Right.
Okay? I was going to beat him. I always felt like, I'm going to get you this time, man. I'm going to get you this time. And I never got him. I almost got him in the playoffs.
Right.
In 96 or 95. One of the years that he was, like, really on. Like, he won, like, 25 games or something. And I actually sat on his slider, which is crazy because the guy throws 100 miles an hour, and he threw it to me. And I got under it a little bit, and the guy caught it up against the wall. But Randy was that guy for me. He was nasty. He was uncomfortable. He came from the side. He was 6'10". Every now and then he'd throw one behind your neck, which you're kind of like, which is he going to throw one in my head, or is he going to throw me a freaking 90
do that or not?
Yeah. But guys like Pedro and guys like Roger, I didn't mind those guys because I knew how they were going to get me out. I got Roger a few times, and Roger got me a lot of times, and I did the same thing with Pedro. But you knew that they were going to come in with their fastball. They had their nasty stuff later on in the at-bat. So I just tried to look for my fastball early in the count and just try to jump on them. And they weren't afraid to throw it for a strike because it was coming.
Rafael, one of the things that I loved growing up watching the Marlins down here when they had the season with Pudge is that connection at first when he would try and pick off with Derek Lee.
Yep.
You had him. You had him in those Gold Gloves year. You guys as a duo. What's that communication like when you're trying to play? Because I don't think I've seen anybody who's as good as just like getting the runner behind from first base as a catcher that Pudge was. What is that communication like between you guys when you're trying to gun somebody down?
Well, first of all, I think he was probably the best catcher in our era. Over the last, I'd say, 20, 30 years, he's probably the best overall. He could hit, he could run, he could steal bases. He was great behind the plate. But early on in my career, or early on in his career when he first came up, he was picking me off at first base. That's how quick he was. And I could, you want to get off the bag when you're holding a runner on, especially when it's a guy that's not a guy that runs. You
Right.
want to be able to get off as far as you can towards second base because you want to try to get to that ball in the hole. Well, I couldn't do that with Pudge because if I got off like more than 6 feet, he was throwing the ball behind me on the runner, and I was like just getting back to the bag and fielding the ball, away from my body like this. And so I told him, I said, you need to kind of give me something so that, I know that you're going to go, because catchers don't like to give a sign. Catchers just like to be it's reaction to them. If they see that the guy's moving off a little bit, they just want to, he was quick, real quick. But I say, hey, you need to give me something because I want to be able to jump off the bag. But when you're coming, I need to know so that I can at least catch the ball and put the tag on it. And we got a lot of people. I mean, we got a lot of guys picked off, but the Ricky Henderson was the best. Ricky Henderson towards the end of his career, I remember playing at the old ballpark, and Pudge was behind the plate. He gets on. I think he walked in the first inning, and you know how Ricky was.
Yeah.
Third person Ricky Henderson. He goes, "Hey, Ricky Henderson shutting it down. Ricky Henderson shutting it down." And I'm like, "Why, Ricky?" He goes, Pudge shutting me down today, so Ricky shutting it down. But that's the effect that, Pudge could actually shut down a team, a running game. And it made a big difference because guys would get on first base and they'd, anchor right there. They wouldn't go anywhere.
What was that signal that you guys came up with to know that he was going to pick off after all that miscommunication early on?
Yeah, he went to the ground. He, with his throwing hand, he would just with his fingers, he would just kind of touch the ground real subtle. And so that I would know that he was coming over. But most of the time he just threw over. I just had to be aware that this guy's going to, even without a sign, he can come over, especially if it's a guy that runs. He wants to keep him close to the bag. But, he was fun to watch. In 99, he won the MVP. That was my best year, by the way, 99. But I got a chance to play with Pudge every day. And he caught like 150 games.
Mm-hmm.
This dude was in the lineup every day, every night, Sunday game after Saturday night game. And it was amazing. And he put up some big numbers, but it's amazing that a catcher could play that many games. He had over 600 at-bats, and he was still able to produce so much.
He really, that had to be absolute dynamic. And not only that, but you and A-Rod, like in some of those runs and those Texas Rangers teams, like you guys were putting up like 100 home runs as a duo, almost like 3 straight years.
We did 2001. I think A-Rod came in 2001, so we had 2001, 2, and 3. He was hitting most of them. Actually, he was hitting 50 plus every year. I was hitting.
You were carrying your weight.
I hit 40 a couple of times with him, but you're right. We were hitting a lot of home runs, but you got to have pitching and you got to have defense. And we had a lot of hitting, but we lacked in the pitching department. We didn't have a strong bullpen, and we just it didn't matter how many. Even my first time with the Rangers, we had, like you said earlier, we had some great hitters in those lineups, but we didn't have a lot of depth in our rotation. We didn't have really a good strong bullpen, so we ended up short every year.
Did you guys, because when you guys talk about how lineups are built, like these days, they're kind of just throwing everybody, but like, did you guys find a comfort of when you have like a guy, like either in front of you, behind you, how that mixes, like just what does that ease on you as one of the go-to guys in the lineup?
I had my best years, 2 years, with Jose Canseco sitting behind me at Fenway Park because I know 3-2 was going to be, I could anticipate a fastball. When they had to make a pitch, they didn't want to miss. You're going to face this guy in Fenway Park. Kevin Kennedy. I loved Kevin Kennedy.
I played for him too.
You played for him too.
I loved him. Yeah, he was the best.
I loved friggin' Kevin Kennedy. He came to me when you got the job. He goes, "You're gonna hit third. Jose's gonna hit fourth. You're gonna know what's you're gonna know what's coming, and where you're gonna run the team." And he was exactly right. And it's, Rafi, there's nothing better than somebody sitting behind you what's coming.
Yeah, I had Juan Gonzalez hit behind me some years. I actually, in 99, I hit behind him, which was amazing because the dude hit like 40-something home runs, and he had over 130, 140 RBIs. That was the year that Pudge won the MVP, but I was hitting behind him, and I had Lee Stevens sitting behind me. So we ran the table. Everybody was, 30 and 100 plus. And in Baltimore, I had Bobby Bowe hitting behind me, which was great. And I had a chance and I hit in front of Cal sometimes. But it makes a big difference when you have somebody behind you that they don't want to, they can't mess with you too much because then they have to deal with him. But yeah, I had some good guys sitting behind me and in front of me. I mean, when you have guys that can get on base in front of you and then you have somebody behind you, you're sitting sweet. You're sitting in a good spot,
Yep.
It's interesting because I was like reading up before this, like, so after you were done, you made like a comeback almost in pro ball. What made you want to do that?
My boys challenging me, saying that I'm too old, that I couldn't, because I worked with my boys, when they were playing, especially when they were in the minor leagues. I did my stuff with them. I never stopped completely. When I quit playing baseball in 2005, I kept working out, I kept running, I did everything as if I was getting ready for a season. And then they were coming through college and in the minor leagues, I was working out with them. I was swinging with them. I was taking ground balls. I was hitting fly balls. I was doing all of it. So that year, I don't know. It started as a joke. I don't know how it started, but it was jokingly. I said, yeah, I can do a comeback. I'm 53, 54 years old or whatever it was. I'm going to do a comeback. And they said, you're too old, man. You can't do that. You can't even walk or whatever. Well, I started training. And I started hitting, and as the more I did it, the more they're like, oh, damn. Oh, okay, maybe, you might. And so we ended up playing for Cleburne, which is a team. It's an independent team that's in the American Association. It's actually a pretty good league. There's some teams up north that are pretty good. But we ended up playing, my oldest son and I ended up playing together. And if it weren't for me tearing up my meniscus in my left knee, I kid you not, I would have been the MVP of the league. I was dominating that league. It was unbelievable. And my teammates would ask me, how are you doing that? How can you, at your age, be this productive and dominate this league? And I said to them, because, I've got 12,000 major league plate appearances, and I've got over 10,700 at-bats at the highest level against the greatest pitchers basically of all time, because we faced some really nasty dudes.
We did.
And so it's all here. I said, I don't have the same bat speed, and my eyes and my hands are probably not as good as they were when I was 30, but it's all here. It's like you don't ever lose. It's like riding a bike. And when you're facing guys that are throwing, 92, 93 miles an hour, that was like batting practice. And I'm looking out to the mound and I'm seeing these guys, these AA guys or AAA guys, and I'm thinking, shoot, I face Clemens and Pedro and Johnson. I faced these dudes. I'm facing these guys that are
Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, Kurt Schilling, same thing, nasty. And so I'm looking out on the monitor and I'm thinking, this is a mismatch. In my own mind, I'm thinking, this is a mismatch. This guy can't get me out. And so that's how I
say that. We always, this guy can't get me out.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the way it is.
You either believe it completely or you whatever, but that's what I believe.
You can't get me out.
That's right.
It's the way it is.
And they couldn't understand when I said to them, because I've got the experience and these guys can't get me out. I'm better than them, okay? And so just with my limited ability that I had at that age, I was still dominating, and I hurt my knee running on turf.
Oh.
But it was fun. It was actually fun playing with my son, and then doing that all over again. But yeah, and I wish I could still do it. All of us wish we could still play.
When you were coaching your son, was there anything you want to give me in terms of some points or some things that I need to look for in terms of, I have a great rapport with my son because I specifically understand the biggest thing is how hard the game is. Yeah. So I'm able, I don't zing him. I don't, I just try to prepare him. But what did you do? Listen, to get your boys to AAA is a tremendous feat. It is. You need a little bit of luck, and you need something to happen, to get to the big leagues. So you as a dad and as a coach, what were you doing consistently with your boys to get them to that level?
Well, obviously working hard with them. I was actually a little bit hard on them because my dad was hard on me, and he was an amateur player in Cuba. And so my dad just knew one way to do it, really hard on me, expecting the most of me all the time, telling me I was never good enough or whatever. So the most important thing I think is, love and support your son, right? Whether good or bad. If he has a good game, tell, hey son, great job. If he has a bad game, I love you, son. Let's get back to work. You'll get better. Failing at this game is going to be a big part of it. But it's what you do when you're down and when you're failing and when you're in a slump that's going to get you out, because when you come out, you're going to come out a better person. You're going to come out a better player. As far as the other stuff, it's just work hard, stay positive, respect the game. I'm sure he's got you to watch. He's got you to listen to. But the main thing to me is just support him.
Right.
100%. Don't let him get down on himself. You're there for him. You're his best ally. Your dad.
Right.
You love him. You want what's best for him. He doesn't want to hear you jump his ass. And I know people say, yeah, but you need to hear it sometime. That's fine. Let the coaches do that shit.
Yep.
You're his dad. You support him because he wants to turn to you when he's struggling. And if you don't do it properly, he's not going to turn to you. He's going to say, I'm not going to go to my dad. He's going to chew me out, which is kind of what I did some. But, I look back on it now, and I actually have friends with little kids, and I tell them the same thing. You know enough about baseball that you're going to teach them how to hit, and, you're going to teach them how to do this, and they're going to watch your videos. They're going to see how great you were. But you need to be dad first, and you need to love on him and just support him all the way through.
I have a tremendous relationship. When I left the game very angry.
I hear you, man.
I never retired. I walked out because of an injury. I didn't want to go. I made a choice because I knew that was where I was and where it was best. And then ultimately, 20 plus years later, he started playing T-ball. And that's what got me back into the game and what we really are is great players and great coaches that know the game and understand the game and want what's best for the game. And now I'm here, podcasting. This brought me, I found you, you know what I mean? Like I found you after all these years.
Oh man.
Through baseball and the things I'm doing personally and the podcast. So it was all well worth it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, it's a great thing. And I'm just happy to see, I'm just happy that I found you and I got the chance to talk to you. And you to know that for me, there's always going to be love, no matter what happens or anybody got to say, you're my man. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it's always going to be.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. The feeling is mutual, man. I admired you. I admired your way you played the game. You were fun to watch. The other thing I would say about your son is, he's got a lot to live up to, but he doesn't need to live up to you. I mean, you're one of a kind. You had a great career in the bigs. I told my kids all the time, you create your own legacy. You don't have to live up to anything I did. Okay, I know I don't know what it's like because my dad never played in the big league, so I didn't have to live up to what he did.
Right.
But my boys had to, and I said, just don't worry about any of that stuff. You be you. Go create your own legacy. You create your own path, and don't worry about doing anything to measure up or anything. And I'm, Ken Griffey, I'm sure had to go through the same thing with his son and other players. But yeah, the one thing I would say is make sure that he understands he doesn't have to be you.
Right.
You're different, man. You're one of a kind. You had a great career, and very few players can have the careers that we had, especially our kids, man. They see us and they're like, damn, how are we ever going to be that or do those things? Well, they don't have to.
Right.
They can be themselves.
Exactly. I mean, I told him, I go, listen, I only affected the game basically one way, driving in runs and hitting home runs. I go, you got a glove, an arm, you got speed, you got a little bit of power. You can affect the game defensively in different ways because, he plays in the middle of the field. And just go out there and enjoy yourself. There's no stress here, you know what I mean?
That's right. Just have fun playing the game because it's going to come to an end at some point. You just want to prolong it. When you're a kid, you want to prolong the inevitable as long as you can. Some of us are lucky and it ends in the big leagues after however many years in the big leagues. But for 99% of the kids that are playing, it either ends in high school or college and, maybe in the minor leagues. But it's going to come to an end. So might as well enjoy it, have fun, live it, respect the game. And when you're out there, man, give it all you got. Give it all you got.
Rafael, did you mentioned when Mo was talking about like leaving the game and not on the best terms, did you feel like you understood what that was like? Did you go through some of that when your first stint with baseball was done?
Oh yeah, I mean obviously in 2005 I was In fact, this was after my suspension because I got suspended for 10 days, but we were in Toronto after my suspension, and man, I got booed out of that place. And it was I couldn't understand it because a few weeks before I was getting celebrated by the Major League Baseball for getting the 3,000 hits in Seattle, which was awesome. But we were in Toronto and we played a series there, and we were flying from Toronto, and it was bad. I was wearing earplugs, and which was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. We went to Boston, and we were playing the Red Sox 3 or 4 game series, and we got there late that night. But the next morning, the manager called me and said, "Hey, man, can we meet downstairs?" I knew something was up at that point because the manager doesn't call you at 10 a.m. in the morning and say, "Hey, come down, we need to talk." And they basically say, "Hey, man, it's a distraction. We're 4 or 5 games out of first place. It's like August 15th or whatever." And he goes, "You're a distraction to the club now, and the ownership want you to pack it up and go home." So I had to go back to Baltimore, pack my locker, get everything out of there, and that's how my career ended, man. I never got the, like you did, Mo. We never got the press conference where you could just say thank everybody, and hey, it's been great. Thank you to the Rangers and Cubs and all that, and your family and your teammates. No, man, I felt like I got kicked out of baseball, and I didn't want anything to do with baseball for like 3 years. I didn't watch a baseball game on TV or never went to the ballpark to watch a game. Didn't even go to my kids' games. And when I did go after about 3 years, I would wear a sweatshirt with a hoodie on and glasses, and I just went down the right field line and just watched by myself because I didn't want to be seen. I kind of isolated myself from everyone. And so, yeah, I had a bad taste in my mouth for baseball and what had happened to me, and then how I got just basically sent home after a 20-year career of playing clean baseball, giving everything I had to baseball, the organizations that I played with, the communities that I played in, and then all of a sudden I'm done. I'm out of baseball. All my friends were gone, even close friends. The only one that I ever got a call from was Kevin Brown. Actually, he came to my house and he visited me and basically said, "Hey, man, I'm here to support you and I'm with you." And but I had some really good friends that just kind of turned their backs. And through the years, after so many years have gone by, I've seen a lot of them. Guys like Pudge and Juan, and guys that were close to me. We've kind of reconnected a little bit, but it's never been the same because when you play with guys that are your brothers and their family, that's what you become. You become family. Through good times and bad times. And when I hit bad times, you knew who your friends were, and I didn't have very many.
Yeah, and that's like, so I imagine like stuff like Hall of Fame that's like trivial to friendships, because like friendships, I'm sure that's like real stuff. I mean, your Hall of Fame credentials, we read them before the show, so we know what they are. But like, is that something that still sticks with you that like you should be in, or is it something that you got to peace with at a certain point?
I'm at peace with it. I mean, the thing is that leading up to, when I got to 500 home runs in 2003. Everyone at the time was, and I never really believed this, okay? I never saw myself as a Hall of Fame player. Maybe it's because I played with so many great players like Mo, or played against so many great players in my era, that I never thought that I'd measured up to these guys. So when I got the 500 home runs, all I heard was, yeah, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. Everyone that's got 500 home runs is in the Hall of Fame, which is true at the time. And then, I didn't really buy into that, but it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe it's true. I don't know. And then I got the 3,000 hits in 2005, and it was the same thing. I was the 4th player in the history with Eddie Murray, Willie Mays, and Henry Aaron. I mean, come on, seriously, I'm in that category with these guys. And so they're like, yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. And then 2 weeks later, I get suspended, and that was the end of that. So I'm at peace with it. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. 2 years ago, I was put in the Veterans Committee ballot or whatever. And supposedly there's 15 people that vote, and you're supposed to, you get 12, you go in. And that was the year that Fred McGriff got in a couple years ago. Well, I got 1 vote out of the 15. So I'm kind of over that. I mean, if it happens, obviously that's the ultimate, achievement. And professional baseball is the Hall of Fame, and it's an exclusive club, but it's not going to change my life at all, man.
Right.
I mean, I might be able to make more money off of my autograph or more appearances or whatever, but it's not going to, I mean, I'm 60 years old and I've got other things in my life that are more important. I think I gave all I had to the game of baseball, and I left it all out there. I did the best that I could, and my numbers, I think, are pretty decent. Now, are they Hall of Fame numbers? That's not for me to decide. Obviously, the voters decided that they weren't good enough, so I'm good with that.
Well,
them numbers are Hall of Fame. I don't give a damn what anybody says.
Well, I appreciate
it. What it is, and you just look at it. There's nothing to say, you know. And Rafi, like I said, you're a Hall of Famer, bro. And
man, I
guys
appreciate
that
it.
played the game, we know. And sorry to say, that's the most important thing.
It is.
Because we know.
Actually, it
You know
is.
what I mean?
And I appreciate you saying that, because there's a lot of guys like yourself, guys that I played against, that have said the same thing. And so to me, that's the most important thing. My peers, guys that I played against and with, they feel this way. Not the sports writers. The sports writers, they don't know what it's like to put on a Red Sox uniform or an Orioles uniform. They don't know what it's like to be in a clubhouse with your teammates and do it for a long time. And so, you know, they have the vote and we can't take it from them. But the fact that you and some of the guys that were my peers would say that means more to me than anything else.
You got it, brother.
Hey, it was great to get you guys together. This was a very cool thing.
Rafi, I think I tell people all the time about, and I talk to Brendan all the time, and I talk to everybody in the studio, we got to get all the first basemen of our time and put together something and let us all get out there talking, because we got some experiences.
I know, man.
You know, remember they all were talking about Nomar and Derek and A-Rod, like these are the shortstops. We were the best guys in the 90s. Look at that first baseman class.
I know.
You know, you had to come with a sledgehammer to do what we were doing.
There's never going to be another era like that with first baseman. Seriously, there's not. There's like 10 dudes from that era that are all y'all won MVPs.
Yeah.
All y'all.
Yeah.
Seriously, and then batting titles and things like that. You know, Olerud. Hey, like
I remember I was playing against, and we were playing in 1998, I think it was. 339. Bernie Williams is in New York. He's like 340. And Robbie Alomar, who was a great friend of mine, but Bernie Williams and Robbie, you know, they're Puerto Rican national players and from their country. I hit a ball to Robbie's right. He dove like, I'm not letting this guy win because Bernie's got to win, and made a great play. And Bernie won the batting title. I lost him by a point. Oh. I said, Roberto, how close? Hey. We've been close, but you know that's that countryman, bro. And he laid out and made that. But Robbie was tremendous, man.
I played with two guys in my career that were really good, steady players, but when they were challenged and they needed to step up their game, they're the best ever. It was Robbie Alomar and Juan Gonzalez. You know, sometimes one wouldn't show up. He would have something, and he would, you know, like when we played with Kevin Kennedy, sometimes Pudge didn't want to play, or Juan didn't want to play, and I would have to go up there and say, Juan, come on, man, you're our guy. You got to go. But when Juan showed up,
turn it on.
He was the best RBI guy in the history of the game. It was unbelievable. And same thing with Robbie. When Robbie got challenged and they say, oh, Robbie's not that good or whatever, anything like that, he turned on a switch.
He flipped that switch.
Superman.
Yep.
It was unbelievable.
Rafael Palmeiro, thanks for joining the Mo Vaughn Podcast. We appreciate you.
Bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
stay
it,
in touch, man. I'll be texting you.
Okay, you got my number now. So, yeah, man.
You know I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I'll be coming that way.
Watch your game. So am I. My boy Dak.
There we go. We're all set.
My boy Dak is a Mississippi State Bulldog, man. Come on.
That's right. You know he was thunder and lightning with Will Clark too. Like in Mississippi State, they was wrecking shop down there.
That's right.
There too.
That's right.
Was getting a little ahead of my hair. I gotta be honest with you.
Oh, come on now.
Right. You know,
you don't know about thunder and lightning. Damn. Come on, man.
I feel like they changed. Like everybody's copied that probably. Like there's 900. They must have been the OGs.
You can't copy that. That's foods. All right, bro. Good to see you. Love you.
Okay.